From North Carolina.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that my staff, Isabella Vesley, an intern in my office, be granted floor privileges until May 19, 2023.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise today to honor the brave men and women in North Carolina and across the nation who serve in law enforcement. This is a particularly emotional week for law enforcement. The law enforcement community, as thousands of officers and their families are in the nation's capital for National Police Week. They're paying a tribute to the brave officers who were killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities. I want to welcome all North Carolinians who are in Washington right now. Unfortunately, our state is all too familiar with law enforcement officers having to make the ultimate sacrifice, losing their lives in the line of duty. Over the past year, North Carolina has lost 3 law enforcement officers who were killed by others in the line of duty, in addition to a number of other officers who died from other causes. I'd like to take a moment to honor the service of those North Carolina law enforcement officers who were killed in the line of duty. In late August, we lost Sergeant Matthew Ryan Fishman. He was 38 years old, of Wayne County Sheriff's Office. He was one of 3 deputies shot after attempting to serve a warrant. They were met with gunfire, and the incident caused a 10-hour standoff. Sergeant Fishman died a day later. He had been a deputy since 2010. Before that, he was an officer in the Mount Olive Police Department. Officer Fishman is survived by his wife, Sarah, 2 children, his parents, and 2 brothers. That same August, we also saw the death of Sheriff Ned Byrd of Wake County. Deputy Byrd was with his K-9 when he heard 6 gunshots as he drove past the vehicle on the side of the road. Deputy Byrd then stopped and backed up his vehicle. He was shot several times by 2 criminals. Unfortunately, the killing of Deputy Byrd revealed numerous failures. The criminals who killed him were not in the United States legally. One of them had been previously deported, but was able to illegally re-enter the country. And Mr. President, when we talk about gotaways, this is a very important point because it happened just a couple of weeks ago in Texas. Someone who was illegally present in this country was deported 4 times, got back into this country a 5th time, and murdered a family in Texas, including an 8-year-old child. That's another face of a gotaway, and it was a gotaway that killed this officer. And following their arrest for the murder of Deputy Byrd, one of these criminals managed to escape prison for several days, and we had to apprehend him again in Mexico. Part of seeking justice must be looking at these failures and making sure they don't happen again. Deputy Byrd was an Air Force veteran and served the Wake County Sheriff's Department for 13 years. He's survived by his sister, brother-in-law, 4 nephews, as well as his beloved K-9, Sasha. Last December, less than 2 weeks before Christmas, we lost Deputy Sheriff Bolanos Anavisca of the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office. He was 23 years old and had served the office for 2 years. He was struck and killed by a car while investigating a robbery at 3 a.m. The driver ran through a red light, struck him, and then fled the scene. They eventually located the driver, and he was highly intoxicated. In the wake of these tragic losses in North Carolina, I'm proud to see that we saw the very best of our local communities. While we have some communities calling for defunding the police and making contributions to a website supported by Act Blue, I looked it up today, Mr. President. I am shocked that it's still there. During Police Week, there's a website out there called ACAB. Send your money. What does ACAB stand for? All cops are bastards. You'd think that at least in a week when we're looking at the sacrifice that these officers made, they could take the website down, but they are still proudly raising money. And if you don't believe me, just Google Act Blue, all cops are bastards. Donate today. Harass the police. Look past the sacrifice they're making every single day. Now, on the other hand, our communities had an outpouring of love and support for the families and colleagues of those fallen officers. Most Americans proudly support men and women in blue, but there are some who feel emboldened by the disgusting anti-police rhetoric. Disrespect and denigration of law enforcement officers only contributes to an environment that makes our officers and our communities less safe and far fewer people willing to even sign up to do the job. And if you don't believe me, ask local law enforcement. We have historic lows for people signing up to go to academies and historic highs for people retiring early as soon as they are eligible. This is happening across the nation. In 2021, the intentional killings of law enforcement officers reached a 20-year high. While the number went down in 2022, it is still well above what we've seen in years past. We need to take threats and acts of violence against law enforcement seriously. That's why we'll reintroduce the Protect and Serve Act in this Congress. This legislation will make it a federal crime to intentionally assault a law enforcement officer. It's amazing it's not on the books already today. It sends a strong message to criminals that targeting and assaulting law enforcement officers is inexcusable and you will be punished. I'll continue to work across the aisle to get this legislation enacted into law, and I'm committed to supporting our brave men and women in blue. This bill has earned broad support and has the full support of the Fraternal Order of Police and many of the nation's leading law enforcement groups. Each year, we take this week to celebrate those who serve us and protect us in public safety. This would be a great year to come back next year's Police Week and say that we got this bill passed. Law enforcement has our backs every time and every day they put on a uniform. The least Congress can do is to support the Protect and Serve Act. They need your support more than ever, and you need their support more than ever. To the men and women in blue in North Carolina and across the country, I want to say thank you for what you do and the sacrifice you make. Thank you. Mr. President, I yield.
Mr. President.
Senator